Welcome to this week's episode of High Country Mobile Auto Repair. It's Friday, close of business, so we're working on some side projects. I wanted to give a quick update on the K20. A couple of things have happened since the last episode. All I've done is take it apart. We've identified a few issues, a few frame cracks we're going to have to deal with. The motor has low compression. It just really was not worth bringing back. So next episode, we're going to be working on a new motor and a few new parts for this truck. Let's go in the garage. Okay, today we have a 1999-ish Jeep Cherokee, or XJ. This is my brother's Jeep. It's been here since October. We trailered it up from Texas. He needs to come pick it up next week and drive it back to the other side of... Where does he live?
You should have just said the other side of Colorado.
Okay. I don't even know where I was. So anyway, this Jeep needs to make it to the Front Range next week under its own power. My brother has not put a full tank of gas through this Jeep since he bought it, so there's a lot of unknowns. The one thing we know for sure is it's a fire hazard. The electrical in this Jeep is scary. So we'll do a quick walk around, but mostly today I'm going to be trying to identify all of the things wrong with the Jeep that will prevent it from driving 7 hours through the mountains next week. And then we'll have a further list after that of things that should be done that probably won't get fixed. Okay, so the first thing immediately that needs to be fixed on this Jeep is the electrical. There are add-on circuits and wires just everywhere, and I've got to go through and identify what's going on here. You see there's a relay right here. This relay is one of the fans, and it's not hooked up because this wire was just wrapped around an amplifier wire or something. So we need to fix that. There's another relay on the other side that controls two other fans. It's not working right now either. And on top of all of this wiring mess, we actually have a nice rough country electrical controller. This box has relays and fuses built in, and then there's a switch panel on the inside of the Jeep, and we'll show you in a minute. This is actually a pretty good system, and half of the stuff on this Jeep is run through it, but the things that are not run through this are going to have to be fixed. Well, it's Monday. We finished up on this Friday evening. I had to kind of leave it alone because there's a lot going on, but I figured out exactly what happened with the wiring, so we've come up with a bit of a plan to try to straighten this all out. So today we're going to fix the wiring on the cooling fans and make that less of a fire hazard. I'm going to leave all the other lighting accessories alone because they're not critical and they're all run through fuses. So we're going to get the fan situation sorted out, and there's a few other things that we need to address on this Jeep. We're going to go through it and talk about it. So this radiator is an aftermarket unit with an aluminum shroud with 3 electric fans put into it. And this is replacing the mechanical fan that was on the Jeep originally with an electric supplemental fan. So none of this is factory anymore. The problem is we've got 2 fans, the 2 driver's side fans are run to a relay here, which is plugged into the original fan wiring harness and then triggered off of a wire that was just shoved into the steering column electrical for a switched on. All of this is wrong. This is bad. The passenger side fan is... I don't even know. There's another relay over there and there's wires tied in over here. We're going to get rid of all that. So what I'm going to do is these 2 fans, the driver's side 2, I'm going to wire these together directly into the factory plug so that the computer is controlling these fans based on the temperature of the engine as it was intended from the factory. And because this connector is already led to a relay and a fuse in the factory box, this should actually just work seamlessly. I'm going to put the 3rd fan over here on the passenger side. I'm going to hook that to the switch panel system here so that if the engine's starting to run hot for any reason, whatever, my brother can just hit a switch and get that fan on. And because this box has its own relay and fuse dedicated to that fan, we're safe there too. So that's going to fix all 3 fans and fix the electrical nightmare we've got. Everything will be fused. Now the rest of the accessory lights, like there's some light bars under the headlight here and some fogs and some daytime running lights. All this stuff, the wiring's a little sketchy, but it's all run into here with fuses. So I'm not so worried about that, and that's not going to leave him stranded. So I'm going to leave all that and pretend like I didn't see it. So we'll get started. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the this big air filter housing to isolate the hot engine air. I'm going to get this out of here so I can reach down in and get to these wires. Now it's just in my way, so we're going to get this out of the way so I can get my hands down in here, wire this to the factory plug, and then we'll switch to the other side. And there's a couple other things we'll have to talk about, like there's some bare wire showing on the positive starter cable down there under the engine. So we're going to put some electrical tape around that at least to, prevent it from shorting on something. Because I'm not pulling the entire harness apart today because it's a slippery slope. I start fixing one thing too well and then we'll be here for 3 weeks replacing parts. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do here is remove the relay that was driving these fans. And the reason we use relays on this stuff, if you're trying to power something that you want to be able to turn on and off, if it pulls more amps than a basic switch can handle, use a relay. What it does is basically you have a switch, and the switch just sends a signal to the relay, which will then close the contacts and send power to whatever it is you're trying to power, whatever device, lights or fan or whatever. But the reason they do that is because relays can handle a lot more amperage than a toggle switch that you'd put in the dash. But in this case, because we're going to wire these 2 fans directly into the factory wiring, this already has a relay and fuse in the fuse box, so we don't need 2 relays over here. So let's get this out. Okay. So here's our factory plug for the fan. We're just going to tie into here, run these 2. So we've removed the old relay. Now we've got a few more wires to sort here. Yeah, I was afraid of that. I think these wires are just twisted on together and wrapped in electrical tape like all the other connections were. So I'm going to have to fix this now. Yeah, they didn't leave much room here to fix this connection. This is not the right way to do this. Yep. So these wires are just twisted together, covered in electrical tape, and there are at least 10 connections like that throughout the cooling fan wiring that's in here. We're going to do it in here. It's just going to be really tight. There's only a couple inches of wire exposed here for me to make the connection, but I don't want to pull the fans because then I got to loosen the grill and then pull this upper radiator support. And honestly, I'm scared to what I'm going to find if I do that. So, okay, so there's the wiring for the middle fan. And then we have the wiring here for the driver's side fan. So we're going to make this connection correct here. And then wire this straight into the factory plug. And this will be done. Okay. So we're going to strip the end of these wires so you can put them into the waterproof butt connectors. We'll shrink them down. That way it's a tight, secure, waterproof connection, unlike what this Jeep had. So in 99% of the cases, black is going to be ground on automotive wiring. Sometimes it's a different color, but try to keep with that red positive, black ground. That way you don't start more fires. So get in here. This is why I removed that little air shroud from the filter. I can get my hands in here. There are far better tools for stripping wire. I don't like this one very much, but it's what I got today. There. Okay, we're gonna use these butt connectors here because they already have the heat shrink built into them. So get the wires in here, crimp it down, and we'll use the heat gun to make these waterproof. If you've never used these crimpers before, there's different colors for each size on the jaws. Because these are blue, these are for 14 to 16 gauge wire. We're using 14, so use the blue spot on the crimper. Okay. Okay. So now we're ready to connect these two butt connectors directly into the factory stuff here. What I do want to verify before we do that is that I've got a black and a blue wire here from the factory. I don't know, the black one should be ground, but I want to double check to make sure so that we don't wire these fans up in reverse. So I'm going to have to start the engine and turn on the air conditioner, and hopefully that activates the fans. Okay, so I got my test light plugged in, and this is one of my favorite tools. It's a smart light, so you can see there's a little bit of there's like a white LED in here. That means that it's plugged into the battery correctly. And then if I touch a positive wire, it'll glow red. If I touch a ground, it'll glow green. So it's not a very good example, but there's the green. So I'm going to use this. Yeah, nothing. The black should, there we go, glow green. So I know that the black wire is ground on the factory harness. This blue wire is going to be our hot. So we don't even have to start the truck to figure that out. So we'll strip these, make them even. Okay. Now we're going to wire these directly in. And the nice thing about this is it's actually still going to leave the connector, so that if we pull the radiator, you can unplug the factory connector here and not have to cut these wires. The other side, not so much. Okay. There's a little bit of a tight fit because the factory wiring is thicker than the wires on the fan here, so it's probably a 12 gauge, so it's very tight fit into this connector. Knuckle popped on that one. Okay, now we've got a strong connection here. We're going to hit it with the heat gun, if it'll reach. Plug it in up here. We'll let this warm up for a second. It's going to take a little while to shrink these down because it's about 28 degrees in here in my garage. Okay, everything looks good here. I'm going to put a zip tie or two just to hold these wires up away from the belts and fan and everything else going on. And we can get the air box isolating thing in here, put the air filter back on, and we'll move over to the other side on that last fan. Okay, we're on the passenger side now. I didn't put anything together on the driver's side yet because there's still a couple of things that I need to address before we block all access to it. But on this side, we have just the passenger side fan. This is the one we're going to wire into a switch in this panel. So luckily, the wire's right here up on the radiator support. First thing I'm going to do is get rid of this old relay that was controlling it and the wood screw. So we can just cut that out. We'll cut it over here. Now, okay, another relay out. And we're still dealing with this other harness that's in the way. Finally figured out what this is. This is for the lights on the mirrors here. That's why it was so confusing. The harnesses going up into the door. I thought it was for the windows or something, but no, it's these lights. And my brother doesn't particularly care for these lights, at least not where they're mounted. So we're going to be pulling these lights off also. And when we do rewire them, we're going to wire them back into the switch pod. So this whole harness is we're just gonna get it out of the way now. And we're not gonna reuse this. We don't have need for any of these relays and wires anymore. Also, always be careful when you're cutting wiring harnesses. If you've got a positive and a negative in the same one, like this one, and you cut it, you're gonna connect both of them and you're gonna short it out and blow a fuse or at least shock yourself. I know in this case that I had already unhooked it, so I know we didn't have power running to it. So that's going to eliminate a bunch of wires from under the hood here that we don't need. You don't need to follow me on this. Just making room. That one can go. It seems like there's a lot of wires. Half of these are me working on it right now. We're going to clean all this up. This is the feed line to that box with all the relays and fuses. So this one's important, but we're going to reroute this once I'm done with the rest of the mess. So I'm disconnecting the ground wire for the fan is under a bolt here on the radiator support. So I'm going to take that out. And here's our harness for the fan. The blue wire and a black wire. And that's what we're going to connect to and run to the switches. Now I'm going to put this other wire back under this bolt because that is the ground wire for this here. It should be, honestly, it should be on the battery. We should have our positive and negative straight to the terminals for that. But right now, I think we're going to end up having to replace this terminal or both. They're not very good, but just want to hook this up back where it was for now so that I don't have a ground issue later when I forget that I took the bolt off. Okay. So we're down to our ground and our power wire for the fan. I'm gonna grab a razor blade. I'm gonna pull back that sheath a little bit, just a little, so I've got room to work here. So we're going to be using the same connectors we used on the other side. Here, we're going to put these on, and then we're going to run new wires of black and red from here over to the, I don't know what you'd call it, switch pod distribution box. Okay. So we got our new wire. We got a rough length estimate here. Actually, just set it up there. We'll do the same with the, oh God, same with the red. Get that laid out. It was a little bit long. Same thing on the ground. I made it a little bit long. If they're too long, they won't seat all the way down in the connector, and you run the risk of having exposed wire left. So try to keep it tight in there. Okay, those are done. Turn on the heat gun. So our connection's good here. Now what I'd like to do is take some electrical tape, small strips, and we'll tape here and then here, maybe every foot or so, to keep these together. Normally you'd put like a corrugated, like a loom protector, something like this here, but I don't have any right now, so we'll just do our best with what we got. Oh, all I've done here is I just took a strip of electrical tape, stick it on the hood here, and I've got a little razor blade so I can cut off little pieces. And that's all I'm going to use. We'll just keep these wires together like that. Okay, now that we've got the harness roughly made up, taped together, I'm going to run it. Try to keep it out of any pinch points or the hood hinge or the hood latch so that we don't short this out. Okay, we're going to zip tie that back in once all this wiring is done. Since we cut all the zip ties off to try to figure out where everything was going, we're going to come back, put all those zip ties back in place, keep this tidy. I'm just roughly, I want to put just a couple zip ties just to hold this harness where it belongs. I'm not going to tighten that all the way down. Excuse me. Okay, it's just tight enough to kind of hold everything where I want it. This has to go. I think this was our source of our battery drain. Every time the Jeep was shut off, the battery would be dead by morning. I think it was this guy. So we're going to take that. We're going to delete it. Okay. So the nice thing about this box is there's already little screws here, the terminals. So all I need to do is cut off a little bit of this insulation, and we'll just tighten it into an available spot here. I'm going to shorten this up so we don't have so much extra wire here. Now on this box, every terminal is actually labeled ground, switch 3, switch 2, ground. So it's pretty easy to figure this thing out. There. Now you want to be careful. These are hot right now. If I took the, let's see, if I take this test light, you can see there's green. See that? And this terminal itself is not hot right now because the switch is off. But there is the power coming in and the ground. So you want to be careful that you're not shorting anything out with a screwdriver. Okay. Now this fan will be easy to test because all I have to do is go flip the switch. Nope. And once again, lost power to the box. Okay, before we can test it now, I guess we need to fix this ground because the intermittent issues with this box working, and I believe it's because this ground is in the wrong place. So we're going to get this ground moved to the battery terminal and go from there. It shows ground, but I don't think it's a good enough signal here. So this is the ground for the switch panel here, the box. I don't think we're getting a good ground in that spot. So if I touch this on the negative terminal, the fan should come on because all the switches are on. Nope, that's not the problem. Yep. Maybe this is the problem. I don't know. We'll just keep fixing everything as we go. Don't mind the adjustable wrench. We're on limited tools at the moment. We'll try this again. Just touch the terminals. Nothing. Got a problem somewhere else. Got the key on now. We'll see if that turns it on. Still nothing. It was working yesterday. It was working this morning. Now nothing's working again. I don't know. We're showing that we've got power. Ground. No power anywhere. I'm going to pull that switch panel out. So we can figure out why that's not working. The switch panel has power and ground to it. We verified that up front, but it's just it works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. So I'm going to pull this switch panel here, which is what controls that box, and see if maybe the connector's loose in here. Okay, get the right size screwdriver. So everything here still looks good. There's a big connector underneath here that looks like it's probably smashed under the console. Huh. Okay. If I had to guess, I'd say that's part of that harness that we were chasing to the lights mounted on the mirrors. So that wasn't even going to work anyway. We'll get that out of here. This one connector I'm after is stuck under this console. I'm guessing that's where our problem is. Get it out. So that's going to wrap it up for today. I've got some other cars I need to get to in town and spend a little bit more time on this than I'd anticipated this morning. Uh, the issue with the switch panel, I think it's probably got a low voltage shutoff on there that was turning it off, because I've got power to it. Nothing worked until I started the engine. I think once the voltage got up, switches, everything started working again. So I've tested the passenger side fan is working now with the switch correctly. The center and driver side fans are running off of the factory harness. I was able to start it up and turn on the AC, which forces those fans on, and they both came on. So next, once all this is done, I'll check it on the highway. I'll go drive it and get this thing up to operating temperature, and the fan should come on, around 200 degrees or so, computer controlled. But otherwise, I think we're good on the cooling fan wiring and the relays, the switches. So tomorrow we'll get back in here and go through all the other little things that need to be addressed. Maybe that'll get done this weekend. We'll get to it when we get to it.